Julie Chrisley's first dinner behind bars has been revealed. Known as the cook of her household, Julie Chrisley will finally get to take a seat as her meals are prepared for her. Unfortunately, for Todd Chrisley's wife, she's been served up prison food. As Update of USA has mentioned previously, all eyes were on the Chrisley family yesterday as the day finally arrived for them to report to their respective prisons. Despite now being behind bars, all eyes remain on the Chrisley family. For the most part, there's a pretty even split regarding why fans have their eyes on the Chrisley knows best. Some fans are absolutely gutted by the situation the reality TV family is currently in. Others, however, are just happy that being reality TV stars didn't prevent justice from being properly served. Knowing Todd and Julie Chrisley have lived a lavish and luxurious lifestyle for such a long time, fans are understandably curious to know what their life will look like behind bars. More specifically, fans wonder how it looks for Julie Chrisley to go from being in control of the kitchen to dining on prison food. What did Julie Chrisley have as her first meal behind bars? According to Radar Online, Julie Chrisley's first dinner at Federal Medical Center Lexington in Kentucky was a chicken cheese steak sandwich. Officials at the federal prison went on to tell the outlet they do offer an alternative if the reality TV star is unable to stomach the prison's meat. In substitution for the chicken cheese steak, Julie also had the choice of opting for a bean or pasta salad. In addition to her main entree, Julie Chrisley's first prison meal was paired with carrots and bread rolls. On Reddit, fans noted that Julie was likely to have struggles with her weight from behind bars thanks to the high-fat and greasy prison food. Other individuals chimed in that she would have plenty of free time to exercise to balance the less healthy food choices she's being forced to consume. Moving in a different direction, fans remain obsessed with the fact that Julie was reassigned to a federal prison for individuals with medical needs. As Update of USA has previously reported, the reason for her reassignment has not been reported. But, fans suspect it could have something to do with her history of breast cancer. Do you think Julie Chrisley was able to stomach the prison meat? Or, did she enjoy a bean or pasta salad instead? Let us know in the comments down below. And, keep coming back for more Chrisley news. In the months leading up to her sentencing, Julie Chrisley had often expressed her concerns about what life in prison might entail. She'd spoken about her apprehensions on her podcast and in interviews, wondering aloud about the day-to-day realities of incarceration and, specifically, what she'd be eating. Known for her love of Southern cooking and traditional family dinners, Julie had never pictured herself in a place where meals came on a standardized tray, far removed from the comforts of home. So when she finally entered Federal Medical Center in Lexington, Kentucky, curiosity buzzed around what her first meal would be like. Julie's prison intake day was a whirlwind. After hours of paperwork, orientation, and security checks, the reality of her new environment set in as she was led to the dining hall. The sterile atmosphere was far removed from her kitchen back in Tennessee, with its warm lighting and aromas of freshly baked biscuits and fried chicken. Now, there were rows of hard plastic chairs and long metal tables. Conversations were hushed, guarded, and the clatter of silverware on trays punctuated the silence. As she filed in with other inmates, Julie's heart raced. At first glance, her tray was unremarkable. A scoop of grayish-brown mystery meat, a side of overcooked green beans, a dollop of instant mashed potatoes, and a small, shriveled apple stared back at her. The scent was a far cry from anything Julie was used to, it was more institutional and less appetizing. Yet, as unappetizing as it appeared, her stomach growled in response, she hadn't eaten in hours. Settling at a table, she took a deep breath, bracing herself as she lifted her fork. The meat, which she quickly realized was a sad attempt at Salisbury steak, was dry and chewy. Each bite took effort to get down, and she found herself longing for even the simplest of meals she used to prepare at home. But it wasn't just the taste that was hard to handle, it was the symbolic weight of it all. This meal, this moment, marked the beginning of a new chapter she'd never imagined. Julie glanced around, noticing that many of the women ate in silence, their faces a blend of resignation and detachment. She tried to mimic their stoicism, but it was hard to suppress her disappointment. The mashed potatoes, lukewarm and sticky, lacked the buttery richness she loved. She missed the familiar comfort of her mother's recipe, the way the mashed potatoes tasted when she added cream and a pinch of garlic powder. Here, they tasted flat, like paste. She forced herself to eat a few bites, willing herself to focus on the nutrients rather than the taste. The green beans were equally lackluster, cooked to a mushy texture that reminded her of canned vegetables left too long on the shelf. She poked at them with her fork, unable to keep the memories of family dinners from flooding her mind. Julie had often made fresh green beans with bacon, sautéing them just enough to keep their crispness and color. Now, here she was, pushing mush around her tray in an environment that stripped away the comforts she once took for granted. Julie reached for the apple, hoping for a small touch of familiarity, but even this seemed like a cruel joke. The apple was mealy and bruised, a far cry from the crisp, fresh fruit she used to buy for her family. She took a tentative bite, struggling not to wince at its sourness. The faint sweetness of it only emphasized how bitterly different this was from the life she'd known. As she sat there, chewing through bites that felt more obligatory than nourishing, Julie's mind drifted. She thought about how often she had gathered her family around the table, believing that sharing a meal was about more than just eating, it was a way to connect, to share stories, and to feel a sense of unity. Now, in this stark, impersonal setting, she felt an unfamiliar loneliness, a sense of being unmoored. The food was unremarkable, but the experience was deeply humbling. In a way, it was a reminder that her life had changed dramatically and irrevocably. The things she had once controlled, what she ate, when she ate, how it was prepared, were no longer in her hands. She felt an odd pang of gratitude for the routine meals she used to take for granted, realizing just how much they'd meant to her, even in their simplicity. After finishing what she could stomach, Julie returned her tray to the designated area and filed out with the other inmates. Back in her cell, she reflected on the experience, trying to come to terms with the adjustments she'd need to make. She knew that this was just the beginning, that the food, the environment, and the limitations were all part of a larger lesson in humility. In the days that followed, Julie began to adapt to the meals, finding small ways to cope with the monotony. Some of the women shared tips.